Hello, 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 everyone in the universe of Beta World, the Betaverse, I guess, wherever it is, wherever you happen to be, and whenever you happen to be, wherever you happen to be there. I am Ryan Erickson, a person in the universe affiliated with the lovely and wonderful value creating consortium of consultants known as Red 42, here with how would you define yourself in terms of Red 42, my co-host Niels? How would you define yourself in there? Or would you even?
Founder, lead artist, consultant.
Creator, and it's a planter of value seeds. How about that?
You were looking for something like that, more grandiose. Okay, yeah,
I
like that.
don't know. I don't know.
Wrestler with bureaucracy, slayer of command and control. Something like that.
Slayer of command
Management
control.
exorcist, of course, is a tagline of mine.
Yes. Proud anti-managerialist. How about that?
Beta Godzilla.
Beta Godzilla. So we have Slayer here also. Just the band Slayer, of course, that came to mind, and Godzilla, a tune made famous or somewhat famous by a band, kind of progressive band of the 70s. Do you know which band I speak?
The Godzillas.
Well, no, not the Godzillas. The actual tune Godzilla. Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, so. I do not know that tune even, and nothing about the band. I heard the name of the band, but I cannot recall anything. That's like the Status Quo thing, that you didn't know this British band Status Quo, and no one. So that's an American band for sure, right? That you just
mentioned. American band for sure. The Don't Fear the Reaper, that was their big tune. Yeah, so which is interesting. We might be the reapers of command and control and capitalist managerialism, possibly. Maybe.
We hope to contribute to that, right?
We hope to contribute to that, and kind of a little bit of a teaser for our next show. But today's conversation is around, as kind of is typical, that the ideas for what we bring here come from a pithy post from you that and that kind of drew me into this universe, because you put these things out there and they say, oh, at first glance, you're full of shit. Sorry, YouTube, we're 3 minutes in. You're full of it. You are totally wrong. And then, okay, because I know you, I'm thinking, okay, let me think about this for a minute. Yeah, let me think what you actually mean when you say this, and what is that? So this quote that brought up this topic was, I have to make sure I have it. Cost management should never have existed. That no value could happen from an intervention of this type.
Yes.
And yes. So I think, okay, but you have to manage costs if you
have to manage costs.
Costs must be managed.
Exactly.
That stuff costs stuff. Labor
will spiral out of control, right? Chaos will ensue, and so on.
Yes. Well, yeah. So what do you mean when you say cost management should never have existed?
Boy, that's a big question. Several answers, many possible answers, but the simple answer is cost management means that responsibility is removed from those people responsible for value creation and cost. And that is why cost management, I mean, the term in our wording, management implies steering, right?
Yeah.
Not just anything, it's not leading or whatever fluffy thing, it is steering. So if you do cost management, try to steer the cost that's not yours to steer, because those people responsible for creating the value, for doing stuff, for doing the work, should be responsible and fully, have full authority over the quality of their value creation. I think that's a nice way to frame it, right? Does that make sense?
Full control of the quality of their value creation, as in
not that bad, right? The framing, I think.
No, that's good. And there's one thing also you said in there that is it just had in mind, well, if someone else is managing the costs for what I do,
Yes,
that seems kind of, if you think about it, that is an assumption of someone is the
of
leader. I am the follow, command and control. They command, we have
yeah,
resources.
yeah.
And
Beautiful. We were very fast this time. We can finish the episode now. I think we nailed
whenever it's over and it's over.
it. No, but
So,
cost management. I think it. I also when you said, "Oh, we could do an episode about cost management," I wanted. Okay, this will be episode 31. We didn't do this already, so I look back at the previous. No, we never talked about this. There's so many topics to explore in BetaCodex Live.
yeah,
Hilarious, really. That we
an
never.
embarrassment of riches.
It's interesting, right? Because of course, in a way, the BetaCodex movement started with this topic in mind through the beyond budgeting work, and of course budgeting is a tool of cost management as well, like targets, allocations, plan actual variance reporting, and all this stuff. It's all about cost management, and cost management in a more specific sense is intervening on cost, like cutting cost, ruling cost and expenses and that kind of stuff. So just to frame it, what cost management involves, it's a lot of things. Of course, can be done with a lot of tools and things and actions, and all of it is nonsensical in a way as we just framed nonsensical, terrible,
It's
and wrong-headed. No,
because, well, you say wrong-headed. How is just the imagery that comes to me when you're talking
Mhm.
about that is that
Mhm.
if I'm managing costs, I'm looking at the past partially.
Yes, that's
I'm
another
looking at
aspect.
the past,
Yes.
and I'm looking down within. I'm not, if I am involved in this business entity, I'm saying, okay,
Yes.
this costs that, so we need to manage these costs and do that. And what are you not thinking about when you are looking down and in? You're not thinking about what generates revenue, what generates value, and the infinite of that. There's only a finite amount of costs that can be reduced, or, I mean, we're talking about management. I guess it doesn't mean complete elimination of cost, because you can't do that. But
Exactly. You
how is it?
cannot manage it, you cannot eliminate it. That's very important to begin with. And why? Because value creation is like a complex torrent of things, activities,
Mm,
and cost is the shadow that appears in accounting of the stream, of the
yeah.
reality. Cost is only the complicated shadow of complex underpinnings, complex
Mm.
happenings, realities. So you
Human
can.
human behavior.
Yeah, and of course, sometimes cost management inflicts frictions on the value creation, positively or negatively, or it restricts and restrains value creation. But then, actual value creation, that's why it's good to call it a stream or compare it with water. It cannot stop, right? The stream will move its course, but not stop to flow. The water is there; it must flow. Yeah.
Mm.
So value creation, it can be influenced by cost management, but usually not in a positive way, right? Cost management never, if cost management is just the attempt to meddle with the shadow of value creation, so to speak, or the
Yeah.
complicated surface, then it may impact value creation. But how can it really improve? I mean, the person maybe who's first said this best was Edward Deming, who said you should never have a goal, a target, or something like that, or a budget, or something like, without the method. You should always give the
Mm.
method together. Or if you don't have the method, you shouldn't meddle. So if you have a method to
Mm.
improve the value creation, then you can say, okay, we will drive down cost by whatever. But if you do not have the method, you are doing just the meddling on the, as you well said, it's if you meddle with the cost alone without the method that is capable of improving value creation,
Mm.
then you're just looking at the past. It's like looking in the rear mirror. Does it even make sense? I think there's so many metaphors
Ye-
in this exploration.
well,
And
yeah,
we
and
have
I
nothing.
think
The river, the shadow thing, and the
River the
cars.
Shadow.
Nothing. Okay.
And the other thing is that if you think about, if you are only focused on cost, and to the, again, we do frame this very distinctly as either or. Either you're focused on value or you're focused on cost. So some might argue that it's a better distinction to make, that to say, oh, we're focused on both. Really, we are. But and again, to go into deeper into cost, if the natural end of cost, if you are focusing on that, you make increased profitability, and but that's not going to increase value.
And you may not increase profitability. I think the assumption that cost management will increase profitability is hilarious. I often have to laugh. I'm former finance manager, controller. I think it's hilarious to assume that you can cut something out and that it will improve profit. I usually assume that if you cut something here mechanistically without proper method, as Deming says, then you will, people will just play it. Basically, the cost will move elsewhere. Usually.
Well, it's the systems thinking aspect of it.
It's unlikely to that you are able to cut. You can if you work on value creation, you can easily reduce waste often. But it's like doing the one. It's like we have these discussions so often, right, in our conversations, and it's such an important thing. It's like happiness. You cannot go straight for happiness. You have to first do something that allows you to be happy. Yes, that's a big, I call it the Tony Hsieh mistake, so to speak. You want to manage or improve happiness, but you cannot improve happiness. You can improve people's health,
okay,
sense of purpose, and their feeling of responsibility and self-empowerment and so on. That will improve happiness, but happiness is unimprovable, right?
Happiness is a lagging indicator, as culture
Exactly.
is a lagging indicator, as psychological safety is a lagging indicator.
Profit is super lagging, right?
Yeah.
Customer satisfaction, market share, those are super lagging indicators. Things, really, because they're indicators. Indicators usually indicate something that happened way before. So, what happened way before in our topic here is value creation, work that produces value creation that will then lead to numbers like cost, profit, client satisfaction, quality index, or whatever you have. So cost management is impossible. It shouldn't be attempted. It should never have existed as a theory or a practice. Managers should finally stop meddling with cost and devolve authority over their value creation to people who do the value creation, right?
Who understand the value.
They can understand it. They make all the decisions, the complex decisions. One of my preferred examples is travel cost of travel expenses.
Okay. Yeah.
People who travel have to make a lot of decisions. Which hotel, when to travel, do I travel, when to travel, which hotel, which taxi, do I fly or take the bus? Hundreds of decisions lead to cost, right? Or do I do the Zoom call or the Teams call? So there are hundreds of decisions involved. I also like the Southwest Airlines story that apparently Southwest Airlines pilots are capable of flying more economically than those of Delta and United, because they are more cost conscious. The pilots are more cost conscious because they are not being troubled with cost management and initiatives and improvements and exterior command and control all the time, so they can focus on flying in a way that is cost efficient, more cost efficient.
Is less costly, maybe.
Is less costly, or less wasteful in a way, right?
Less wasteful.
And of course, do pilots then have to balance? I always wonder how do I do not know enough about flying a commercial plane, of course, to know the details. But of course, these pilots have to balance punctuality with cost efficiency and fuel efficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, people at corporate at Southwest Airlines, they do hedging on the price of kerosene. So,
jet fuel.
jet fuel, yes, if you like to call it like that, the fuel stuff. They do hedging so that their price is relatively stable. So Southwest Airlines do, different people at Southwest Airlines do go to enormous lengths of reducing costs, ideally, or to keeping costs as low as possible. And this, let's say, this shared responsibility, you cannot have it if some people in the organization do cost management. You can only have cost efficiency if you do not have people meddling with costs and rules all the time, or budgets. So that's why we framed this session like this. You can either have cost management or effective value creation. You have to choose. You cannot manage costs and expect improving value creation, reduction of waste, and that kind of stuff. That's why lean cannot really work if you do not empower workers or teams to do the value creation improvement, the Kaizen and the improvements overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so I'm still grokking the just the fact that cost as a lagging indicator, that kind of breaks my brain a little bit, but it does become more understandable in terms of if, and I'm also trying to relate this to, you relate it to Southwest Airlines, and then the other beta cases, of course, Handelsbanken. Now, Aldi, I don't remember that being one of the first cases, but I know that has come up on our conversations as well. And
by the way, I just saw that. Yesterday I checked their current annual report to 2023, and it's how much credit loss did Handelsbanken globally have? Credit loss, 100% would be loss of all credits. That would be terrible, right? Clients not repaying. But the credit loss they had in 2023 is 0.01%, and that went up from 0.00%. So they had literally almost no credit losses in 2022 and 0.01% last year, which is an incredibly low number. It's so low. And of course, credit losses mean cost for a bank. The cost of loss is not lost business, but lost repayments from clients, right? So
defaulted,
one, it cannot happen through cost management. It can only happen if you have superbly responsible people giving credits, to clients. You have to have really responsible people with excellent client relationships so that they do not have bad, sour turning.
And in the Handelsbanken, again, this again, not having ever worked there, only kind of seeing it in the abstract, but
I never worked there. Yeah.
Well, but
I mean, information that we have been gathering for 20 years, and we know a lot of stories, but I never worked there, right? That's not the point. It's not
it's not the point. But the observation is that the power's in the branch, right? If the branch, if there's the communication within the branch about what the branch is about and how that connects to Handelsbanken, writ large, and how the branch serves their market and knows why wouldn't you have a diminishing or possibly zero credit loss if you as a banker know your customers? I mean, this is back in, it's almost hilarious actually to think, like, in a Wonderful Life, or It's a Wonderful Life, the movie It's a Wonderful Life. We're talking about the local bankers and that they know the people in the community and that they're willing to lend, and
they are not bothered by commands from headquarters like campaigns, targets, incentives. I almost said incentives.
Oh, there's a title for an episode.
Is it? Okay.
No, I'm saying there could be. No, we're making up a word now for incest.
Always, every day, invent a new word every day. That's a good thing to do. Invent a new word every day. Hilarious words. So if people in the branch, you put it so well, if they are very close to the customers, clients, understand their business, and I wanted to add that, and as long as they are not bothered by campaigns, target steering cost management. People can do their job, and that job will be excellent if the business model is correct, right? And if the products are decent, and if the overall orientation is sound. So there's not much miracle in value creation. The lunacy of cost management is that you can improve. Really, the idea of cost management is that managers are smarter than people doing the work. That's the belief behind it, right? People cannot be trusted. Managers are smarter. That's a twin assumption behind cost management, and it's hilarious.
Leaders know. Leaders know.
Leaders know.
It's
You just have to have great leaders.
You have to have great leaders. Yes.
Or the greatest.
There's the greatest, like Muhammad Ali's greatest. One thing.
By the way, there's a beautiful song by Deacon Blue, one of the bands I love most from Scotland, Deacon Blue.
Okay,
and they have
Deacon Blue.
a song. In the song, there's the line, "You know the cost of everything and the value of nothing." I think it's about it's a love song. So that it's new with us, with our topic.
This would. I should. Well, again, but if you put music on a video, YouTube takes it away. But
but it's a song. I have to figure out which song it is. Yeah.
Well, you distracted me with Deacon Blue because I'm thinking the Steely Dan tune, Deacon Blue. But anyway, so you know.
Yes, that's why they got their name from, right?
Yes. I'm not familiar with Deacon Blue the band, so I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not. But I did want to say in this again another little aphorism or just a little tagline is that cost management is a distraction. Value creation is a focus. So what would you?
Beautiful word. Yes. The song is
that was just,
by the way. The song is Bound to Love by Deacon Blue. But cost management is a distraction. And the question is, can your organization afford the luxury of that distraction? Right? Should you, as a manager, leader, which we do not believe in that term, right?
Yeah. Believe you me, I'm
poke at the leader, believers in leaders and authoritarianism. Why should leaders bother their organizations with cost management? It's a luxury that nobody can afford in this world. And in a more and more fast-moving world, doing something that's always lagging behind, because cost management is notoriously lagging behind. You do not know in the moment of managing the cost, trying to manage the cost, what is happening in the value creation. So you're always out of touch, out of
sync, maybe.
Out of sync, yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Put this. It's a distraction. No organization. People who do the work, let them do the fucking work, right? Allowed to swear on YouTube these days. I don't know. One never knows, right? But let them do the freaking work. Let them alone. Make them responsible for their results and not for cost or budgets or any other ludicrous kind of thing. Yeah, have them make teams accountable for the results. That's what Handelsbank does. That's what.
And we're thinking, and just maybe the example also of the idiocy of travel policies and those kinds of things, that if the team relationship, if the cells in a particular the market periphery is within that, if people are holding each other accountable for value creation, then if there's something smells wrong about what's happening, so then there's an assumption that I respect you as an adult. We are accountable to each other. Hey, what's going on with this? I don't understand what's happening over, and it seems more, I don't have to wait for someone to tell me that, you have to have X dollars of travel expense and you can only have this, and if you don't, we're going to dock your pay, this and that, and all the waste that happens around that. Why not have an adult conversation among people who respect one another, and it's surprising. It's surprising how little of that mutual respect
Yeah, I
is
think
around.
managers are not fully aware of the cost of cost management. And you just
Mm.
beautifully explained how cost management inhibits social density and social control and responsibility with each other, for each other in the moment of value creation or in the process of value creation, if you want to say so.
Mm.
So the cost of cost management is irresponsibility. The cost of cost management is lack of autonomy. The cost of cost management is centralization. The cost of cost management is that it in itself is a wasteful pattern or activity.
I think you're writing your next LinkedIn post right here. You know,
It's so beautiful. We are so. I mean, yeah. It could be an article. I mean, we just to deviate a little bit, which we do occasionally, right? We read BetaCodex website, and in the
yes.
process of doing that, of course, I had the pleasure to put a lot of the content up again. To put
Mm.
a lot of the content back into the system or into the new type of 3 system that we have on the website. And I noticed also that there's so many topics that we should do more research on, like what are the elements of the patterns in beta of lowering cost and eliminating waste and improving value creation. Yeah, but that can be so much can be done around that. What are the patterns that you want to preserve that you have in beta in place, compared to alpha, where you only have the lunacy of cost management, right?
Mm. Yeah.
It took me a long time, by the way, to understand that all cost management is wrong. Even activity-based costing, which was lauded when I started my career,
Yeah.
25 years or so ago. In activity-based costing was still all the rage.
Yeah.
But that also meant that some analysts would analyze the cost for others and then define process. Whereas, of course, in beta and cell structure design, the idea is that teams have to decide what to spend on what to do how, and who would do what. They themselves, the center, or if they buy things from the center or the market. So
Mm.
having that highest level of autonomy in a cell structure, that means that so many actions can happen, so many conscious moves to improve value creation. You can never achieve that by cost management. It's impossible.
Wow. Yeah. And just to maybe deviate a little bit, just to in my preparation for today, just
Mhm.
looking at where did this term come from? I mean, it seems like a rather self-explanatory term, but the Project Management Institute puts the pillars of cost management in their body of knowledge, and it's very interesting that so many of the principles of the Beta Codex are completely orthogonal, different from those principles. That's the idea of planning, evaluation, estimation, budgeting, analysis, all the kinds of things that those if you approach whatever a project, an endeavor to create value from that perspective, as opposed to from the outside in, from the market and what is required to create that value, it's no wonder that stage gated processes aren't necessarily always the best way to engage with human beings and create value for them. So,
Yes, we as we just had a glitch in our connection, maybe on my side. Where did you
ah,
find? Where do the what did you identify as the roots of cost management?
well, I don't know about the roots, but
Ah,
in the Project Management Institute, I
yeah,
have, again,
yeah, they
I
are cost management. I
well,
mean, Project Management Institute overall is highly Tayloristic, still infested by Tayloristic thinking, right?
of
And I
course.
think one of the roots of cost management is Frederick Taylor and his contemporaries, right? Why? Because, and in a way, management has cost accounting as at its root. The first
Hmm.
thing that was taught in business schools, like Harvard Business School, was cost accounting. accounting.
Mm.
That was the only thing
Yeah.
that existed pretty much in the 1900s.
Mm.
Yeah, up to Frederick Taylor's work. And at the time, of course, there was an explosion then of management knowledge.
Yeah.
But so cost
Not
management,
to.
cost accounting is very much the core of, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say not to demonize Taylor, because it's very easy to demonize him, and I've been guilty of that myself. Before Taylor, one might say that there was no control of cost, no management of cost, or attention to that. Now, what we may be talking about here is the natural extension of 150, 200 years of focusing on that element for many, to the detriment of value creation. So,
Yes, and I think Taylor's focus. Thank you for pointing that out and repeating it and making that point again. I mean, Taylor, he believed that there was one best way to do things in order to have the best cost, the best value creation, the fastest process,
Mhm.
whatever that entails. But the one best way,
Yeah.
that was his thinking, right? And it was the superior duty of the consultant to identify the one best way.
Mhm.
And that, so in a way, I wouldn't say that the Taylor himself was an originator of cost management, but of course it because Taylor believed in intervening on the shop floor. He did that himself, right? He did these experiments with people, the famous pig iron
The pig
case,
iron.
the
Yeah.
Schmidt case that everybody has heard of probably. That is about him intervening and researching the best movement, best man, best movement, best process to move that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And intervening on that, and then you would have less cost, less waste, more benefit, more profit, whatever. And so in a way, we cannot blame Taylor really for cost management. It's just that, of course, the logic of doing that then turned into cost management efforts by managers, especially, right? So in a way, that's the historical root, not Taylor himself, but the
And
imitator.
and eventually ending up in business process reengineering and any number
Sure,
of efforts in that
sure. Which
domain.
all these things that mean other people than those doing the work, doing the improvement, that's ridiculous stuff, right? If anybody, any of our listeners want to get more into that, the difference between removing like removing the improvement effort from the people doing the work. There's this beautiful book by Marvin Weisbord, Productive Workplaces. Oh, there's lots of stuff about Toyota, of course. Profit Beyond Measure is a great book by Brims, and not sure who the co-author is. There's a great book, Profit Beyond Measure, that also explains this. Yeah, so you have to devolve decision making to teams in the value creation to actually have to impact value creation, which will then produce better cost as a consequence, instead of trying to manage the cost to hopefully have better value creation, which usually is an impossible.
Creates pressure, creates friction between workers and management. If you're
Yes,
I mean,
gaining.
you're
Of course, cost management always creates gaining, right? Yeah.
well, you create incentives also. You create the incentive to reduce cost, and the other, so incentives being another path we could go on. What came up for me also is that in this moment now, where we are in February of 2024, to those of you in 2030 who are going back and looking at this, here's what we were doing in 2024.
Hello, 2030.
Hello,
Hello,
2030.
future.
That there's this whole return to office, and the companies now are suffering, and that they're well, we need to tighten our belts, and we must reduce costs, because we again, the we of all large companies, are not profitable anymore. So that idea of, oh, to scare an employee to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm a cost. I'm a cost.
Yeah.
I'm a labor cost."
Yes.
And if this company's not doing so great, they're going to cut me. They're going to manage me as a cost and manage me out. So
Yes.
that this that is, it seems to me, and observing company behavior over the past couple decades at least, is that's the default. It is the default view
Yes.
that when an organization, large, ostensibly value creating organization, gets into trouble, what is the first lever that's pulled? Probably the first lever that was taught in the MBA school, to say, "Hey, you got to reduce costs. You got to raise prices, reduce costs, consult. All this kind of stuff that doesn't say, well, focus on innovation, focus on something that will drive you forward. Look forward
Also,
instead of looking back."
also raising prices is often not necessary. You should just reduce discounts. But to the topic that you mentioned, personnel expenses, personnel cost with
Yeah.
people cost. Yeah, that reminds me of another great beta case. DM Drogeriemarkt here from Germany, 70,000 people or so. So huge retail company, huge, massive retail company.
Yeah.
And around 30 years ago, I think they changed um, the wording. Instead of personal expenses, which is something negative to reduce, right? Expenses are bad, so you need to reduce them. So fire people, lower wages, keep wages as low as possible, etc. They call that line in accounting. They have renamed it into people income. I'm not sure how to put it exactly. People's income, personnel income,
Hmm.
employee income, something like that. So that everybody looking at that line in accounting, every manager, every accountant, every controller is aware that this is people's income. It's not something we should
Hmm.
reduce. It's something we should aspire to heighten.
Pay
We shouldn't
everybody well, pay everybody fairly, right?
exactly. So it's not something to be managed to be diminished or to reduced. It's not something bad at all. It's a social contribution. The salaries we pay, the income we give, that organizations give to people, that's something to be proud of. It's like taxes paid, actually. It's not something to be
Hmm.
reduced. Of course, it should be balanced, in a way to to make it fair, to make the taxes paid fair and appropriate. But it's not something in principle to be diminished, reduced, fought. So this idea,
Hmm.
you put this brilliantly. Not everything that we call cost is something we should reduce. And personnel expenses, this it's bullshit that we learn at business schools, right? That people are usually the biggest. I hear
The,
people
the
watching
biggest
this
cost, yeah.
answering in their heads, but people, they are our highest expense. That's bullshit usually. And always tell this to my clients: even if you think that people are your highest cost, they are likely not. It's just that you think that what you declare as personal expense is all inevitable or right or optimal, which it is not. And you should not strive to reduce in people's income or salaries.
Hmm.
You should try to have them create much more value. So how to do that?
Oh,
With, for example, if you do cost management, it's like stealing people of their opportunity to do the work. So
well, and I think it is a simple. If you just lift the mind above this issue for a second, that
mhm.
if I am talking about expending capital on something, and if I want to expend that capital on something valuable, I'm making an investment. I am spending capital, but I'm making an
Sure.
investment. That wages and employee compensation is an investment in value creation capacity, and that's a liberating thought. Now, if one decides to, we're going to, how do we, I mean, it's a little inhumane. I'm trying to figure out a way to say that better. It's like, what's the return on that investment, right? What
Sure.
is, and I don't know that there's to manage the return on investment, but if I am employed with an organization, I'm a member of the organization, and this organization is investing in me fairly and well, and I'm participating. I have of the conditional income based on participation and all that kind of stuff. Then I want to perform well with others. I feel as if I'm connected with the purpose of an organization, and that's a true investment, and this also gets to the point of transparency. If I understand what the value creation stream is in my cell or
Mhm.
in for the whole organization, and I know what is being invested in me, I will become invested in the organization I'm with. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that just flipping the idea from from cost to value, and
Yeah.
that
I think also what I see in our work when we do open space beta transformations, beta transformations with clients, I also see that the some of the biggest cost reductions really come from insourcing stuff that was outsourced, from going through all the contracts and reducing what's not used anymore. For example, servers that have not been used for 10 years or something like. We always find this kind of stuff. Uh, we help our clients identify that kind of waste, or a client having so much pocket space paid for, nobody could use it, that kind of stuff. Or recruiting is being outsourced, and since it's outsourced, it's working less and less well. So recruiters make decisions on whom to choose and whom to interview, which is usually a fatal decision. Should never be done, because we have talked about this. I think recruiting is a complex thing, and should be done by people themselves. So
we haven't talked about that, but that would be a wonderful topic to have.
we can do
The
that. Yes.
hiring part. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many ways to waste money on external contracts. If you outsource stuff, that's externalized cost through outsourcing, which is ridiculous because you still have the cost and stuff. So I personally, I do not believe that the biggest cost reductions are there in a command control organization. When transforming into beta, usually the biggest cost reductions are in contracts that are wasteful, outsourcing stuff that should be outsourced and that costs at a premium, so to speak, and all this kind of internal waste, stuff that expense shouldn't be made at all, stuff that isn't really needed and so on. And to question that all teams must do that, right? It cannot be done by managers nor by consultants, of course. It must be done by everybody.
So then this brings a little bit of want to make clear the distinction between elimination of waste and reduction of cost. So that's because, well, okay, so if we're in a cell, we are performing together with each other for each other and creating value. So well, what's happening in the branch is happening here. I notice something is wasteful here. Let's talk about it, and let's do something about it. And how is that? I'm saying, how is that not cost management?
Yes,
I guess
yes. In a way, eliminating waste is only, like, cost management is only a side effect of activities that you should do. Is that what you wanted to hint at?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to think, because we talked about, and again, one of the tenets of lean again is eliminating waste, the different kinds of waste that we
Yes.
eliminate.
And I thought about this. I tweeted about this a couple of days ago as well, because it's always, for me, for example, it's important that I reflect upon these concepts regularly, which is why this show with you is like therapy to me, because I have the opportunity to repeat things for myself, for ourselves, without clients present, necessarily. So it's a good way to reframe and to repeat, reframe in a way. So I think you're totally right. Cost is a result of value creation, and reduction of waste is also a result of changes in value creation, right? You cannot go for the waste directly. You have to understand value creation first, then act upon it, and that will lead to waste reduction, which will in turn lead to cost reduction. Or improvement of profit, or improvement of margin, or whatever, however we might frame. So you are totally right. You should never, lean is not reducing waste. Lean leads to reducing waste, which is totally different. Kaizen leads to reducing waste, but you should not reduce waste. You should do Kaizen.
Yeah, you're taking us all the way back to the 45 minutes ago, talking about, you can't create happiness.
Exactly. Reducing waste is like happiness. You cannot do it really. It's a side effect of improving the work, of understanding the work better, of being coherent, of organizing things differently. That's what we're doing. So it's a fine line that we are walking here, and you hinted me at this possible misunderstanding, misframing, really. Yeah, great.
And I think that's a lot of this work, and a lot of what continues to draw me to this work is making the distinctions, being precise about the language that's being used, and understanding what is the difference between value creation and cost management. What is it? Why is the word leader an authoritarian kind of framing? Why? And just all of these kind of, I don't know. It just feels like it is very important in order to change the way that work happens, in order to change the way organizations are built and talked about, and that it's important to have these kind of distinctions between, to understand what's underneath, again, the word management, for example. Management and leadership even is such a fluffy term that almost these terms are useless. What does managing, what does it mean? What is the actual activity that happens under that activity, and why are you calling it management? Why aren't you calling it what it actually is? So, and I think that's the part of the challenge out there, to say and repeat the distinctions that are there.
Yes,
and
let's do that quickly. We define leadership as something that happens in the space between people when they worked with each other, for each other, right? When they created. So leadership, actually leaderships happen in three distinct structures of org physics, as we call the concept. So people can look this up, right? So we say that leaderships happen in the space between people, and there's like leadership happening in formal structure and informal structure, and in value creation structure. So that's something that happens. It's a social dynamic. Managing, as we frame it, because we think it's helpful, right? That's why we frame it. This is not something we pick out of the air. It's supposed to be practical and useful. So we frame managing as steering, in a way, right? Coordinating, controlling, aligning, directing, all these things, right? So management is intense. It means steering. And steering is not a smart idea in complexity. That's why we recommend to let go of management, the social technology, let go of the steering, and accept that markets steer the organization anyway, which means you have to put the periphery in charge and submit the center to the periphery, so that the periphery is submitted to the external market. Those are foundational assumptions. And of course, if management is a bad idea in complex markets, the steering is a bad idea in complex markets, then the same goes for cost management. In a way, all the managements are bad, right?
They must be exorcised. They must be exorcised.
Yeah. Or risk management. In that understanding, risk management is a nonsensical idea. We should organize to reduce risk, and not try to manage risk, which is an impossibility.
Yeah. Or God forbid, manage change.
Exactly. Or manage people management.
Oh, good Lord. Oh my gosh. Right. Boy, this may be coming back to the beginning of the the birth of the management exorcist. Why is management? Why must management be exorcised? Interesting.
Yes, it's a necessary thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've solved this problem, don't you?
Yeah, I think we discussed it. We discussed it briefly, but we try to be to the point. What else we might mention? Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this session was about relative targets, right? If you want to see more about the context of all of this, what's the alternative to cost management, really, in more detail, go to www.relativetargets.com, for example, the homepage of the relative targets approach to beta and to performance systems, because it kind of gives a very nice overview over all the context, the whole context of what we have discussed in this episode. Anything else?
There several. Again, the concept overview is great and rich in and of itself, and understanding the nuts and bolts, a little bit of a peek under the hood of what Niels and I are talking about, to get some more meat into it. I would like to offer a preview for those who may be here with us now about what's going to be happening next. We are going to be welcoming a special guest to our show, of Mr. Ron Purser. We have invited him. He has accepted. This is not a secret, I don't think now.
Yeah, now he's doomed. He's accepted our invitation, so now
he's doomed to be here. So,
and Ron Purser, he wrote. Yeah. Yes.
No, he wrote a new article featured in Current Affairs magazine, and hopefully you've already shared that one out to the BetaCodex group.
Yes, but this is a very interesting hint, because I think Ron Purser, he wrote wonderful stuff 30 years ago, that a book that I love, that I dig, I would say, about self-management, that he wrote 30 years or so ago. What's the title of the book? Let's not misspell it. It's about self-management. It's the Self-Managing Organization, how leading companies are transforming the work of teams for real impact. It's exactly the topic we discussed today, right? Yeah. And that book by Ron Purser, it's a little bit hard to get, but I think everybody you have to have it. It's one of the foundational works that influenced the creation of the BetaCodex network and our concepts. I think Ron Purser and his co-author, Stephen Cabana, they figured out so many elements of cell structure design and relative targets in that book, or they explain it so well as well. And even transforming organizations, they suggest an approach, which is not, I think, as good as Open Space Beta is now, but it was a very good approach, very influential on our work in the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable and on me personally. And this same guy, Ron Purser, he published, only just this week, he published an article called Against Managerialism in Current Affairs that you just mentioned, Ryan, and it's highly recommended. It's so interesting, so dense, so rich. It has such a rich texture, so well written, so smart, so witty about the management trap, in a way, and the idea of
the worship of the managerial class, and to the detriment of all, I would say.
Yes, and this article is free of charge on the website, the Current Affairs website now, so you can read it free of charge. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. Longer article, very rich again, very nicely contextualized. And we will talk with Ron Purser at the end of the month. So do not miss the article. Do not miss our session with Ron Purser. Wonderful guy who lives in California.
Well, and don't hold that against him.
No. No, don't do that. Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn up the music here and see. I think we've got a wrap here.
Thank you for the conversation, Ryan. It was lovely as always. Your final words?
Final words, be more beta, with each other, for each other, in pursuit of joyful togetherness, I would say.
Please don't stop the music.
Don't stop the music, man. Don't stop the music. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next week. Or actually, in a couple weeks, I should say.